I appreciate you carving out the time, Sarah. Also, your team had like sent me something from the brand, which is really cool, and I could see
Thanks.
probably why people love it. But I'd like to start from the beginning, if it's okay. I'm curious, what did your parents do for a living, and how did that maybe impact some of the decisions that you made in your life and career?
Yeah, I'll actually step back a generation because my grandfather had started a rug company in Los Angeles in the 1950s. It was one of the first rug companies, and that was exclusively like rugs, carpets. And he was really a pioneer in the LA design scene. And it was a bit of a decorative carpets was is what it's called, and it was a bit of an institution here. So my father took over the business from my grandfather and he expanded it in different ways. They worked in hospitality, they worked really high-end design, they did a lot of custom carpet. And he was always kind of, ever since I graduated school, wanted me to come back and work for the family business.
That's awesome. What did your mom do growing up?
My mom was a stay-at-home mom. Yeah,
She had the hard job,
she
basically.
had the
Yeah,
hard
yeah,
job,
yeah.
right?
That's cool.
Yes.
Um, what would you say from either parent? What would you say is like a lesson that you learned from them that maybe you instilled in your kids?
Well, I really look at my experience working for my dad because I did end up working for my dad as such a unique privilege because so many people don't get to have that kind of relationship with their parent where they see them, in their workplace and they don't see them just as a dad, but now as a boss. So I got a lot of life lessons from him. And one of the main ones was really not micromanaging people and trusting people and letting them fail. And he was really big on that with me, especially in obviously starting my business, but in other ways too, and letting me kind of throwing me in and letting me figure things out. He used to say, like, another lesson from him is he used to say, any decision is better than no decision. And did I lose you on Zoom?
Oh no, am I frozen?
Oh, yes, you're
All right,
frozen.
there we go.
Okay. Any decision is better than no decision, which, it kind of meant the best decision is doing the right thing. The second best decision is doing the wrong thing. And obviously the worst decision is doing nothing.
Yeah,
And I got really good at decision making. And I think that goes back to, um, letting me fail and the idea that, failure is not failure, right? Like failure leads to success and opportunity. So I learned that from him. My mom was really big on education, really big on being a good reader and writer. And my parents they did EST, which is like kind of like a cult, like, I don't know if you know what EST is. It's like a
no,
cult like forum in the 1970s and 80s. And the idea of EST was really built on like personal transformation, right? And so my parent and living in the now, and my parents were really great at my mom especially, and instilling kind of like pieces of advice. Like she used to say these things that my brother and I thought everyone said, and then we learned that like no, these are these are just weird things that my parents say. But my mom used to say things like white light it when we were sick, which meant like the power of visualization that you're going to get better. And I do think that I have an ability to visualize and kind of manifest things, and that probably came a lot from their parenting.
that's really cool. Did you have, when you think about maybe jobs you had growing up before working in the family business, what were some of those that come to mind?
So when I graduated college, I wanted to work in magazines. And so I moved to New York and worked for Hearst Corporation. At first, I worked in circulation, which is like those insert cards that they put in magazines and, a lot of direct mail. At the time, I thought that was really a dying industry. But it did teach me so much about advertising and marketing and skills that I use today. And now catalog and direct mail are a huge part of our business. And I only did that for like 8 months. And then I was like analyzing spreadsheets. It's not for me, and wanted to be on the creative side. And I eventually worked for O Magazine under Gayle King. And working for Gayle was amazing and so much fun. And I got to work with Oprah. And I got to plan special events. So like readers would get a chance to win a spa trip with Oprah and Gayle to Miraval, and I got to like plan it. And I got to call all the readers and announce that they had won. And there was one actually that was a home decor challenge where I think you won something. I can't remember, but it was something with Nate Berkus, and you got to go on the Oprah show. And it was an interior design challenge, which is interesting because at that point I wasn't in interior design, although that was very much my background, my family and growing up. And I got to pick the winners, and this woman won that actually had reached out to me like a couple of years ago, once learning that I was now, you know, the CEO of Lulu and Georgia, and created a whole design company for herself, interior design company for herself after winning. And it was just kind of a full circle moment.
What was it like
nice.
calling those people and kind of giving that
Oh,
news?
it was the best. It was like think if you could do like the Oprah, like you get a car, you know?
Yeah.
It was so fun. I mean, and I was only like 25, and I got to call these readers and be like, you won. And they would be screaming on the phone, like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Life-changing. And I think it was really life-changing, you know, for a lot of them. It was a fun job. It was a really fun job. And then working for Gayle was amazing. Gayle's the best. She's exactly.
I interviewed somebody, and he was telling me about, I think he was on a show with Gayle. The name rings a bell, and he had to like write a letter to his younger self. Was she on it? Did she host a show, I think, or no?
Well, she's on CBS now. She's
okay.
on them. Yeah.
I think back in the day, she was on some show.
Oh, she was also, yeah, she did like local news in Connecticut.
Okay. That's awesome. So you grew up in LA, but then you went from LA to New Orleans for school and then to New York. Is that?
Yeah. And then I went to New York because it kind of seemed, I think at that point, well, I wanted to work in magazines, but it seemed, you know, not as exciting to move back home yet. The idea of moving, you know, I wanted a different experience. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. I always think about like some of the first jobs I had, or maybe the places where I learned the most important lessons, or some of the most important lessons. It sounds like you reflected on those too, even in so I think you mentioned like having experience in print. You guys do print now, right? With magazines and things like that. So there's like an appreciation. I remember I was telling you when I worked at Google a long time ago, our bosses would say our competitor isn't Yahoo, it's actually traditional media, was what they would tell us. Right. I could totally see that now.
Yeah.
Why did you study English and psychology? Like, what made you study? It seems like you kind of thought you were going to go in your family's business, and you had like a design background. What compelled you to study English and psychology?
I didn't necessarily think I was going to go into my family business.
Oh, okay.
I knew it was an option, and I knew it was what my parents wanted, but or at least what my dad wanted, but that wasn't really what I set out. Like in college, I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking I'm going to do what I'm interested in doing. And I can't draw like, you know, I think like in these conversations, you want to draw parallels. I can't say that there's any there was no through line from English and psychology to what I'm doing today. I picked something that I was passionate about and I had fun with. And, but there's, you know, I wasn't thinking, let me major in something that's going to help me with this career down the road. It wasn't that.
Okay.
And then when I graduated, I wanted to go to business school. At that point, I thought I thought it would help me with anything, and it would definitely help me with my family business. And my dad was like, no way.
He said, don't go to business school?
Oh, he was like, there's no way I'm paying for you to go to business school. He's like, if you want to learn business, you're going to work for me.
Oh, that's funny. That's
and I think you know, looking back, and there's things business school I would have gained more friends for sure. And I think there were certain skills like accounting that I had to learn on the job that maybe I would have had a better background, or forecasting and projections that maybe it would have helped me to have gone to business school. But I think he's right. There's no better lessons than are learned kind of in it and doing it.
Yeah. I know. I think I was telling you earlier, I've now done a number of these interviews, and it's one of the questions. It's actually why I even started doing this. I was thinking about going to business school, and I talked to everybody that was, you know, sort of in a leadership position, maybe that had gone to Stanford or Berkeley, and we were in the Bay Area at the time. And those were the only two schools I would even think about going to. And so I got a lot of advice, but I've met people who didn't go and never regretted it. I've met people all across like sort of the spectrum of, went to Berkeley, went to Stanford and didn't regret it. I've met people who've gone for a year and regretted leaving early. I don't know if there's a right answer. I've also talked to people that have presented at Harvard and said, I'm not sure I would have ever wanted to go to business school because I wanted to just do it in real life and experience it. And so I don't know if there's ever a wrong answer, but I'm sure your dad had some experience and sort of foresight to help
Yeah,
you learn the
I
ropes.
completely agree. I think my friends that have gone to business school loved going to business school and got a lot from it. And I think there's all different paths for sure.
And so did you then move back to the West Coast and was that sort of the inflection point to get into the family business after school?
No, my dad had when I was working for Oprah, my dad had kind of been in my ear, being like, move back, move back. And I had met my husband, my now husband in New York, and I said, I think we should move to LA. And he wanted to move to LA too because he's a comedy writer. And my dad said, great, let's get you started. I think you should work in New York for our sales rep there. And
Oh,
before you come out to LA to learn kind of the business through him. And I don't know how he like finagled that because I'm sure that this guy Gary was probably like, I don't want to take your 25-year-old daughter around with me every day. But we became close friends and he taught me everything about the business and it was amazing. And we went to, the job was to sell the rug line to, well, he had multiple rug lines to all the different showrooms and places like ABC. And so I really got a great knowledge of definitely the high-end design world and how that all worked. And carpet and different types of carpet and rug constructions, and he taught me a lot. It was really a great time. And then I moved to LA. And when I moved to LA, I started working for my family.
okay, cool. Before I forget, was there a lesson from Gayle King that you kind of like the Gayle and then like sort of Oprah? What were the one or two lessons that stood out from working with them?
I mean, Gail made everyone feel really heard and really appreciated. There was once kind of a challenge that had been going on with Oprah's school in South Africa. And Gail sat me down on her couch, I remember in her office, and she said, what do you think about this to me? And I'm like this, like 20-something-year-old. I know nothing about Oprah's school in South Africa. Like I know nothing about education. Like it's like nothing. And like she's asking me my opinion about it and she cared and she was and that's how she is and I think that was a lesson hopefully I took as a leader. I hope people would say that about me. And then Oprah, this was the time when Oprah was really big on The Secret, which is like the power of manifestation. And I think people think it's funny, but if you can get that power, like if you really can start, manifesting things and putting things in the universe, I think it's really powerful. And I think it really, I think that's one of the reasons that the business started and business became successful.
My uncle sent me, I remember he sent me like a CD of it or something. I watched like bits of it at the time.
Yeah.
It was a while ago.
It's really just visualizing and putting out there what you want and being
Yeah.
able to see what you want to create
What
in
I
your
think
life.
is hugely important. Yeah. I mean, I always often ask this question, like what are some of the commonalities that you notice about leaders that you respect and who are some of those people? It sounds like those are some great lessons. Um, was there anyone else, or when you think about like the competencies of the leaders that you think are important that you try to embody as a CEO? I know you guys probably don't have 1,000 or thousands of employees, but you've got a number of them now. Is there any other sort of competency that you think is important to really think about to be a good leader?
I mean, as somebody told me in the beginning, if you're a leader, lead, you need to make sure that you're leading people and inspiring people and evoking passion. But I think some of the things I mentioned, like not micromanaging, trusting people, being able to make them feel like they are valued and they have an impact on the company, I think is huge. I think people really want to be able to make an impact. And luckily in our company, because, we're not thousands yet, we're hundreds that we're able to create that environment where people really can make an impact and feel valued within the organization.
That's awesome. What was the inflection point? I read that like this was like a side project for you initially. What was that inflection point where you said like, this is going to be like 100% full-time thing?
So from day one, I was pretty clear that it was like going to be something, but I was
Oh,
still managing that's because we had such a great initial response. We had really worked up to, um, we had let a lot of people know we were launching and we had created a wait list and buzz around it. And so from day one, I've told the story before that our site crashed actually from the amount of people trying to get on the site. So I kind of knew there was something. But we had to balance, like I had this family business and I knew that I was being groomed to take it over. And that had provided, so much for my family for, what was it, 60 years at that point. So I had to balance, am I going to really start this and put my time into this new thing? And it was kind of a lot of conversations in the leadership at the company at that time, like where are we going to put our efforts, because you really have to make sure that this bread and butter business is the one that we're focusing on. And then Lulu and Georgia just kept kind of growing and taking off, and it became clear that I couldn't do both, especially when I got pregnant with my first child. And then it was clear, like, okay, we gotta make a decision at this point. Like this is becoming a really big thing, and it can no longer be kind of a side project.
was it a hard decision to, maybe you made the decision, but was it challenging to tell your dad, like, did it feel like you had to pick a side or something like that?
It did feel that way, but it also felt like a runaway train, and it was so out of control that we had to, like, there was part of it that wasn't a choice, it was like it became so, it just
Clear. It was
became
clear at that
unmanageable.
point.
It was
Yeah.
unmanageable. So I had to. And I think he saw that too. And but yes, that was hard. That was hard because there was so much wrapped up in my family business in terms of kind of our identity and what I saw for my future originally.
Yeah. I imagine it's also, I had a chance to talk to Amir Laloy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you guys, I'm sure it's a
Mhm.
small industry or something. And just the amount of work that goes into that business, like, physical work, mental, just what
Mhm.
it takes to succeed. I imagine your dad poured a lot into it. And so,
Yes.
so I'm sure you appreciated what he was trying to do at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. And I still feel nostalgia over that business, and and I see, I'm lucky that I see a lot of that, blood in Lulu and Georgia. So it does feel to me like a continuation, even though it's a separate company.
Yeah. You mentioned just the team and the employees. Is there, if you think about hiring for a second, is there a trait that's really important that you'd say, whether we have 100, 200, 300 people at this company, this is one, I'm sure there's more than one, but like, is there one thing that you really look for in hiring and building out the team?
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of labeled out 5 core values and things that we look for in people, but I would say if I had to rank them, I think number one is definitely an entrepreneurial spirit. I really look for people that want to, want to make the business their own, and in whatever capacity that may be, and have ideas and go for them, and not be scared or risk averse, and believing in themselves, all of the things that make, kind of an entrepreneur.
Is it easy to test for, like in an interview?
No, I don't think that's easy to test for necessarily.
Yeah. Is it more like, because
Yeah.
when you said entrepreneurial spirit, I'm thinking, okay, we need someone who can wear 5 hats, right? And they're not afraid to do something outside of the job description. But what it sounds like, it sounds like it's almost hard to test for someone to kind of do what you described. So that sounds like part of it is just getting to know somebody.
Part of it's getting to know somebody. Part of it's like, what ideas are they coming up with? How do they see the world? What do they see as their accomplishments? Like when you've asked them their accomplishments in their past jobs, what are they pointing to? What do they see as success? So, yeah. And I think in general, it's also probably personality and a bit of that as well.
Okay. I'd love to hear in just in your own words, what is it that makes Lulu in Georgia? And Lou was your grandfather, right? And George was your dad. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I probably wouldn't pick that name today, but
I like the name
But
match.
it's
I mean,
nice.
so it's based off of them, but like you just kind of made it slightly different, right? Name
I
wise.
have
Okay.
nice.
It's pretty catchy. So what would you say is most unique about the brand? Like what should people know?
So I think that one of the reasons I created Lulu and Georgia was because I saw a hole in the market for really beautiful designed product at an affordable price, or at an accessible price to many. And that's what we were doing at Decorative, right? We were creating these really gorgeous rugs, but they were really only for the high end, and you couldn't get them. And the showroom concept at that point was really gated. So you as an end user, you weren't really getting to enjoy those products. And so I saw that I could import these products, same level of design and quality, but at a more affordable price point. And that was the idea. So we're product first, we're extremely design focused, and we're really passionate about beauty and design. And I think that hopefully that comes across in everything we do, from, our products themselves to the imagery on our site. We have a lot of fun with it because we're so passionate about product. And
Okay.
I think that's the differentiator. We don't subscribe to one style because we see beauty in all types of design, and also see design as that trends and forward design changes over time.
Do you remember the first sale? Like what was that like like over, over the internet?
I don't remember. I remember the site crashing. I don't remember like the first order we got. I don't remember that. But I remember hit products in the beginning. Like, oh my God, this product is just flying off the shelf. And I remember like manually taking like wait lists down of people, and everything was so manual in the beginning. We printed out our orders, we wrote the POs. It was very scrappy in the beginning.
What was the best compliment that you ever got that really stuck with you?
So I think people enjoying the product in their homes is number one. But maybe maybe a number one is, I am told all the time, and I was just told it even like an hour ago, how amazing our team is to work with. Like how much they love working with us, how like warm and welcoming and friendly we are, and like positive. And I think that also speaks to back to the product, like that comes through. Like people are just passionate. They love being here. And that's probably one of my proudest accomplishments, is that, you built something that people are also passionate about.
That's really cool. What's the significance of like the partnerships? Because like when I look on the website, I see all these partnerships. So like how should a consumer think about it? Or what's the significance of it?
So we really relied heavily on influencer marketing early on. We didn't pay for anything. We kind of gifted product. And it was really successful. And it was a different age in influencer. I think the influencers they were bloggers at that point, were just kind of beginning. We were just beginning. It was there was a lot of camaraderie within the environment. And I think we noticed how powerful these people were in getting people to buy what they loved, and early on, we developed a rug with an influencer. It was one rug, and it was just, we couldn't keep it in stock. It like really did well, and it hit on all the key kind of design trends at the time. But it was from this woman, Taylor Sterling from Glitter Guide, and she really promoted it well. And we just couldn't keep it in stock. And I was like, well, if we can do that with her, we can kind of emulate that with other, and actually with more interior designer slash influencers. And the first one in that realm was Sara Sugarman Samuel, and she kind of became like the Michael Jordan for Nike for us. Like we just have developed so much product since then, and it's been unbelievable. And I think part of it is she's a product designer as well, so part of it is she designs amazing product and has the eye, and then part of it is also that she helps promote it, and we have so much fun with it, and we have a great relationship, and we've now worked with a lot of interior designers and worked with other fashion influencers, and it's done really well.
That's cool. Was there something unique outside of the design? Was it like wool, or was there that first rug that sort of flew off the shelves?
No, it was design. It was
This
design. It was a
design.
flat
Yeah.
weave rug. It
Okay.
was at the right price. And it was like a quality rug, great price. And the design was good. And yeah, it was, yeah, people really, really liked it. It was
What do
called
you,
Elodie.
what was it called?
Elodie, the Elodie
Oh,
rug.
cool. Okay. What do you find yourself gifting the most if you had to pick one product?
You mean gifting to my friends or gifting to, well, look, I mean,
Yeah.
we don't gift, like if I'm gifting a friend, like I can't gift to them because rugs are my favorite still.
Oh,
And
so it's
maybe
hard
that's
to
because
like,
it's my
yeah,
background,
it's a
but I'm not gonna like
birthday.
give
Yeah.
somebody a rug. But rugs are my favorite. I'm really passionate about rugs and handmade rugs and all of that. So I think if it's like a birthday and I'm giving somebody a gift, I'm usually giving them like a vase or something along that line.
Yeah, that's cool. It's good
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah.
Don't be
You can't
careful
really,
what you
it's hard
gift.
to gift. Well, it's hard to gift a like furniture piece or yeah.
Yeah. I heard you say that when your daughter was born, was it your first daughter, I think,
Yeah.
it taught you how to delegate and you're sort of forced to delegate more. And obviously I'm sure the team has gotten bigger since, but can you expand on that a little bit? Like what was that point where now you've got, not just yourself to think about in the business and you've got, you're wearing multiple hats, I imagine at that time. How did you learn that lesson?
Oh, when my daughter was born, it was the hardest time in my whole like trajectory in the company because we had a very small team and the team like one person had quit like right after she was born and it was like it was I was still taking customer service questions like answering customer service questions like it was very difficult to juggle and realize the need to kind of um, create a stronger foundation in the company and definitely to delegate. But a lot of our leadership team isn't working moms. I think it's 80% of our leadership team and a lot of our company is working moms. And I think that working moms know how to prioritize. They know how to spend their time really wisely. They know that the time's limited, so the time has to be spent like really intentionally. And normally how to juggle things without being, too stressed out. I mean, we have a very high tolerance for pain working moms.
Yeah.
And I think that probably helps in business, right? Because there are times when I think like what would the business look like if I didn't have kids?
Mm.
Or what would my parenting look like if I didn't have the business? But I think having both has allowed a lot more intentionality to the time and to how you spend your time and what you're going to focus on, which has been great.
Yeah, I could totally see that. It's like Parkinson's law, like work fills the time allowed or something like that. I always wonder when my friends say they don't have time to do something and they don't have any kids. It's like a forcing
Right.
function of
Exactly.
like, I've got 30 minutes to
Exactly.
get this thing done. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah, that's really cool. Um, one of the things that you talked about, I've heard you talk about is just like the relationship that you built with customers. And you mentioned like the early on, sort of in the beginning, you sort of built this buzz. What's one lesson that you would share around developing relationships with customers, knowing that many of these are online relationships, right? I know there's no store that people can go into, but what's a lesson that you've learned along the way? Because I've heard you talk like a lot, again, like you said, you've learned like through experience. What's one of those things that maybe you would a lesson you would impart someone early on, maybe starting in this journey of maybe starting a similar type of company, an online business?
I think, customer service is a lot about empathy and, compassion. Compassion is a core value of ours, but making sure um, that you can see, because, it can feel sometimes when a customer is upset and they're ranting because their item arrived damaged and, that's a problem in our industry that it can seem trivial, like, okay, why are they freaking out so much about this? But once you understand, like, oh, that is a real bummer. Like they were having a party this weekend or they were having family over and now they can't have their item and the item's big and bulky. And so it's hard to pick up. And I think having the empathy for the customer, like that is really hard. I'm so sorry that happened and speaking from a genuine, authentic place, and then obviously taking action to fix it. But I think starting from empathy, I think that's what customers want. And that also enables you to make the right decision on how to best to move forward. We are so lucky because we have products that live like, where life happens at home, where all these special, and a lot of people are buying products before they have these special life events, whether that's a holiday or, a kid being born or whatever. And so I think and we know that, that by bringing beauty into the home, we're doing so much more for people, that we're bringing happiness and peace and whatever else it is. So looking at it through that context can make you have much more empathy for the customer when things don't go right in the usually it's the shipping delivery process or something
Yeah.
like that.
Where do you think you learned that? Because I think that's hugely important. And maybe even large companies miss, I feel like, when you get an email and you're like, hey, my thing, like the box was half empty, or it just feels like the more online business we do, the less empathy there it seems to be on the other side. Is that
Yeah.
is that something you feel like you learned through experience, or is that maybe through
I
your?
think I learned that through, one of the reasons I wanted to start this business is because I'm a huge online shopper myself. So I think I probably learned it from my own
Yeah.
experience of shopping and being disappointed and, wanting to improve that experience, but also because I think I'm an empathetic person. We recently started design services, which is, I think, one of the frustrations also with home decor shopping is that people have no idea how to decorate their house, like no idea. And even if they're a really like fashion forward person, I think it's hard to put together. It's hard for me to put together a house. It's like scale is so important and you don't know what to put with what. And so people are overwhelmed because they like from the moment they get on the site, because they're like, I don't know how to put this together. And of course we're showing them images and doing everything we can. But I do think that the experience of having someone to talk to that's going to put it together for you or help you, or at least be like, hey, I was thinking about this and this, what do you think? And having someone, double check that or kind of that check if that's going to work together, I think has been really, really successful for us. And isn't, another form of obviously customer service and making sure that the customer feels like they are taken care of, when they shop with us.
Have you heard positive feedback from that experience?
Oh
You feel
yeah,
like it
it's been
works really
amazing.
well?
Well, and it's generated a lot of sales. Like we can see it
Yeah,
in
yeah.
sales
That's
as
cool.
well. But we know that customers want it, and
Yeah.
it's a free service on our site, but it's, the
Oh, wow.
customers
Okay.
really, yeah, that they're really asking for it. And I could see it with my friends. Like my friends would always ask me, like, does this look good together? And like I'd be in
Yeah.
meetings, like getting texts. I'm like, I don't
My
know.
wife's like that. She'll have like, because everything's like on Pinterest, that she has all
Yeah,
these like ideas, and then she'll send it to one of her friends who's an interior designer, but she doesn't live here. And then she's like taking pictures of the living room, and it's like this fragmented process.
right.
Um,
It's very
yeah.
fragmented and nobody really trusts themselves, I think, to make the decision. So you definitely need somebody else to talk to.
Do you have a proud milestone with the company that comes to mind?
I don't think it's like any one moment. Early on, I remember celebrating the first month that we made $1 million, and that felt like this. We all like people who are like lifers here, like remember this day because like we just stopped working and we went out to like to the Abbey, which is like this. I don't know if you know, it's like this bar club in West Hollywood, and everybody remarks on that day because it just felt like, oh, we've hit it, we've hit this milestone. But since then, and that was in early days. But since then, I can't point to like one specific moment. I think COVID was a milestone in my mind because we saw such extreme growth. But I think I do need to pause and reflect more when we hit these like new milestones because I think it just feels
Yeah.
everything moves quickly.
It's good to appreciate. So you mentioned COVID. I know for some industries that might have been a terrible situation. But when you think of like maybe a setback over the years, I don't want to call it a failure, but is there something that comes to mind in terms of like a lesson that you learned?
Yeah, COVID is a good one because while COVID, we saw an extreme surge in sales, and it was great from that perspective. We were operationally a mess. We couldn't handle that amount of business. We weren't prepared for it at all, and we decided that we needed to re-platform our site. And I hadn't really invested in any infrastructure or accounting, and it was very painful for the team. It took like years kind of. And
Wow.
I would have, you know, first of all, I guess nobody had the, you know, foresight to know that COVID was going to happen. And so it's not like I was building for that, but I think investing in some of those key operational, you know, foundations in technology and accounting would have helped a lot.
How was that like? If you could take me back to that sort of time frame, was it all of a sudden, you know, just a spike surge in sales, and you're like looking at the data, and you're like, what is going on here? Like, was it so sudden, or how was it?
Yeah. So I remember when like kind of the world shut down, my CFO was like, we need to start cutting. We need to start looking at things. We need to start shrinking. And, you know, that was like the conversation, like, let's make a list of where we can cut. And then it was like the next week where I started to see the sales and I was like, oh no, this is going to be the opposite problem. This is like, we're going to
We
we
need
need to
those
hire.
people you're
We
thinking
need to
about. We need that.
hire.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We need to hire. Yeah.
That's cool.
So and that was cool and exciting in a way. That time was really hard. That time was hard because it was, you know, and obviously for everyone, it was hard, but like working from my nightstand in my bedroom and then like needing to hire all these remote employees and again, dealing with the challenges of not being operationally solid to handle that. And I think even really large companies had that issue, right? Like there was operational challenges. The supply chain was a mess. People
Yeah.
had the challenges with how to navigate warehousing, how to navigate manufacturing during that time. So it was how to navigate white glove delivery. Like we need people to go into somebody's house and assemble a piece of furniture, and then they'd say they had COVID, and you know, so it was like it was
That's tough.
all yeah, it was all very tough. So, but I think it was probably a little tougher for us just because we didn't have that infrastructure in place, which now we do, and we really spend a lot of time on that. And that was a big regret that I hadn't done that prior. And you know, I
It's
think
future proofing your operations and your technology.
and now that's something that I think about more. And I still am like, you know, it's never fun for me to think about like, you know, our head of technology has this new project. We come up with, we have strategy meetings where we come up with like the big projects we're going to work on. And we all decide these are going to be like the 3 big projects we're going to work on next year. The operational ones, you know, never, never excite me. Like it's always a joke, like, okay, yeah, we're going to talk about this project again. But I now know from experience that that's important to invest time and resource into those types of projects.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is there a misconception about the brand that you think is good to sort of maybe clarify? Yeah, get for meet people and they're like, "Oh, I thought you guys did this," or you know, or something like just like a misconception in that sense.
I think that hopefully, well, we make a lot of our own product. I don't know that a lot of people know that because we also carry other brands. So we have a lot of our own exclusive product that we design and import ourselves. And, you know, that's become a majority of the business. So I don't know if people know that, especially if they shopped with us in the earlier days when rugs were really the only thing we were designing and importing, and then everything else was kind of carried as a retailer. So that's really shifted over the years.
Okay. Is there anything else about the brand specifically that comes to mind that you think is important to maybe highlight either now or in the coming months?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, I hope that people see us as differentiated in the space in terms of style and in terms of our design aesthetic. I mean, I think I definitely notice that others and there's actually someone now that well, do I want to mention this? Maybe I can mention this later.
Yeah, we can cut it out if you want to. It's totally fine.
Okay, I'll mention it. So there's a company now that's running ads that says like Lulu and Georgia, but half the price. So I think one thing I definitely want people to know is that, you know, that we do have accessible price points and we have quality product. Our products we have a lot of handmade product. Handmade rugs are really important to me. So we have a lot of quality product, and I don't think there's people offering half price on products that we make. They say like Lulu and Georgia because it's not actually the same product, obviously. So I want people to know that's really important to us. Sustainability is really important to the brand, and creating quality products that last and are timeless.
Are the other products that you carry, are they like exclusive typically to you, or how does that work?
Sometimes
Okay.
they are, and sometimes we carry Amber Lewis's line for forehand, so that one is not proprietary, but we do carry other brands that we think our customers will love, but they're highly curated.
Okay. Awesome. I've heard you talk about like the trade is a big um business partner for you. And is that, like, just thinking of it from in layman's terms, is that like Target or or like, how do you describe that part of the
No,
business?
we don't do any wholesale sales.
Okay.
So trade for us are interior designers and architects. So that's
Oh,
about
gotcha.
that.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is a big part of our business.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons that when I started Lulu and Georgia, so we were only working at Decorative Carpets, we were only working with interior designers and architects. And
Oh,
I saw that so I have that background and kind of knew how they work and what they need and how their needs are different from the general population. But also I saw that the industry was changing and that those designers were shopping online. They were going less into showrooms, and and maybe that's because they were forced because of the end user. I'm not sure, but the industry changed. And so I knew that when we built the business that we could build up a pretty good design trade following.
that's cool. It sounds like when I've heard you in other interviews, it sounds like you know a lot about a lot when it comes to the technology, the HR space. Like, do you feel like one of your superpowers is sort of diving into things and learning enough to be dangerous?
Yeah, I think that I'm like good at a lot of things and probably not great at any one thing. Yeah.
I didn't want to say a little bit about a lot. I said a lot about a lot. So, but I think, yeah, I do think that's like a good
No,
skill to
I
have
think
rather
that's no,
than
I
being a
do.
specialist.
Yeah, and I'm curious and interested, and I've done most jobs here, so
Yeah.
I am definitely like a in the weeds CEO, and I want to know how everything works. At one point, I was like, oh, I would really have loved to learn to code, but I think that was going to take a little too much time, and I didn't have that time.
Yeah. No, I can see that. Does your husband still do comedy writing?
Yeah, he does. He works for American Dad. I don't know if you know it. It's an animated.
I've definitely heard of it. I think maybe I've seen it in passing. That's cool. Okay.
Yeah.
I love like stand-up comedy and stuff like that.
Oh,
That's cool.
nice.
Yeah. Okay. Is there when you think about just like the best career advice you've ever received, what comes to mind?
Um, I think we touched on some of the let me think if there's anything else
Yeah.
that I love. Um, I think leaning into leadership, like understanding your role within the company, I think has been important. Obviously the prioritization and making sure that where your time is going is where it's being most efficient, um, and then, building a lot of trust with an employee so that they can grow and develop and make an impact, and you don't feel like you're, micromanaging them, that you're coaching them to also be leaders.
That's great. Um, is there something you do for yourself when you think about like showing up as the best version of yourself as a parent, the best version of yourself as a leader at work? Is there something that you do for yourself to sort of in order to be able to do that?
No, I
You're not taking ice
no.
baths
So like, look,
yeah.
if I think, having three kids in this company, that's maybe what's missing is there's not a lot of self-care, and maybe I also don't need it as much as other people do because I'm able to kind of exist without that. But no, I don't think there's no like, no, there's no, I mean, I wake up and think, yes, I want to be the best version of myself that I can be today. And but no, I don't do any practices. I am in entrepreneur groups, and that's helpful in learning how kind of other people operate and sharing experiences. But I don't do any self-care rituals really.
Is there anything you do just to wind down? Because I'm sure like
No,
the emails never stop.
no, I don't wind down either. I don't wind down.
You're like,
I
oh, just go
barely
to sleep.
sleep. I know sleep is so important. Like sleep is like everything. I know it, but I don't
Yeah.
sleep that much.
How many hours do you
Um,
get on like on average?
like 5.
Oh wow. Okay. And you're up. Okay.
Yeah, I just kind of learned how to do it. I think I'd be better if I slept more. So that's a
Yeah.
goal. Sleeping
I have a
more.
friend who can sleep 5.5 and just, but it's like his genes are just different. He can do it and he operates like at 100%. It's a great
So
superpower.
that's what COVID changed, I think. So before that, and I guess I also only had 2 kids then, but I think COVID changed that because obviously there wasn't any separation between work and personal life. And I don't want to miss things with my kids. So I'll take off, during the day to be able to do something with them, or if they have something at school. But I know that that means I'm going to sign on later. I'm going to open my
Yeah.
computer at night. And so I don't really watch TV or anything like that. I work a lot at night, or do what I call like work life stuff. But yeah, that's the trade-off, and that's become normal for me, and I'm okay with that right
Yeah.
now.
That's cool.
I think my life's really full, and I think there'll be a time when it's not, right?
Yeah. My
Like your
wife always says
kids.
that too. She teaches the kids that we have 2, and there's never enough time, I feel like. And sometimes I feel like she needs more time for the self-care stuff and all that. I think it's a balance of like, tell me anytime you need, but also I think it's like you've got to take the time yourself as well to take the
Yeah,
initiative.
of
Right? It's a
course.
balance.
Mhm.
Um, is there a book or 2 that has made a big impact, fiction, nonfiction, whatever it might be, that has made a big impact on you that you recommend other people read?
I don't think, like, as I didn't seek out to be an entrepreneur when when I joined the family business. Like I think some people that are in, when I look at peers like that also have built brands, I think that they maybe set out to be like, what industry can I disrupt? Or what am I going to, just knowing that they want to be an entrepreneur and then building a brand. That wasn't how my origins. Like it was much more organic and fluid than that. So I didn't have that kind of like, let me read all the books on, leadership and management and entrepreneurship. I just don't, I think there was a moment where people like told me like I should, and maybe I like looked up some things, but that's not me. And I don't know. I guess I just kind of, one of the things sometimes I think about, in these interviews too, is entrepreneurs will, or, people who want to be entrepreneurs will listen, and they want a formula. And it's same with parenting, right? Like it would be so nice if somebody could just tell you, like, give you a playbook, and every time you did this thing, it was going to work, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. It's not like that, right? And it's not like that because you're a different person, and it's not like that because your employees and your children are different, right? Like even if I try the same strategy on my 3 kids, they're not going to react the
Yeah.
same
I
way.
did this thing and
So,
they still didn't brush their teeth.
right,
It's like, wait, I
exactly.
just read this whole
Exactly.
thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Like this trick didn't work. Right. So I guess I just kind of found my own way with that, was kind of my way. But that, I know that people are really inspired by books and
Yeah. Do you think like
podcasts.
the entrepreneur groups, like you've leaned on your peers in terms of like
100%.
having to make certain decisions, or how did you do this? Or
100%. That's been so valuable. And just hearing their experience. You share an experience, and then they share an experience that's, similar, and you realize, okay, well, we're all in the same boat, and it feels very supportive, because it definitely can feel lonely sometimes, right? When you're trying to make these decisions by yourself.
yeah, that makes sense. I appreciate you leaning into this. I'm looking forward to putting this together. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you so
All
much.
right. Thanks, Sarah.